Welcome on into the show. My name is Deny Gallagher, and I'm joined by the snare campaign provocateur, the king of feedback himself. It's Benny Horowitz. What's up, dude? I actually can't hear myself.
Oh, my feedback.
Yeah.
That's all right. We're changing the tech today. I'm great. Feeling good. Back home, working in the studio. Brain is a little mushy, but feeling good, man. How are you?
I love it. I love it. You are just a bastion of love wherever you go. But I'm doing well. I'm feeling the love. Yeah, man.
I like that you say that. Do you find me to be a beacon of love in the world?
Yes, I do. And I also think that you're just out here bringing people joy.
I try.
All right.
I try. So what's going on this week? How we doing?
Oh man, we're just trying to make some movie magic, learning all about loans and stuff like that, and hopefully how to repay them. How about you? Done anything fun this week?
So I've been watching Democracy Now!
Oh,
Which is like an amazing series. And there's one bit about a fake Hollywood producer.
That's me.
And in the fake Hollywood producer, the actor goes, "What do you do? Like, what do you actually do?" And they go, "I keep the dick wet so you can work." So I think that's your new job.
I'll put that on LinkedIn right away.
You need a business card. Denny Gallagher, keeping that money's dick wet. Good for you, Daddy.
Oh, man. Well, you know what segment each and every week? We're just going to skip all the pleasantries. It gets a dick wet every single week. It's this day music history. Oh, my goodness. What do you got?
Well, it's funny we're talking about getting dicks wet because today it's about Michael Jackson. So in this day, this is a crazy one. I didn't know about this. In this day in 1984, Michael Jackson catches fire. That's right.
Pepsi?
He signed a collaboration with Pepsi, as you know. In the late 80s, we had all the Choice of a New Generation ads and him, hawking for Pepsi. But in 84, he had his first collaboration with Pepsi, and on the shoot, something went horribly wrong with some stray pyro, and it set his hair on fire. Now, there's some interesting parts of this story. First was the scene was so dazzling, no one noticed his hair was on fire. And then he let out a frantic shout. A security aide ran to his side, extinguished the fire, giving him a bear hug, running fingers through his hair. But guess who this security guard is?
Oh.
Miko Brando, son of Marlon Brando.
No.
Who apparently was a security aide of Michael Jackson. Miko Brando, how do you get Marlon Brando in the mix here? Now, he was taken to a hospital where he was treated for second and third degree burns. He spent some time there. He had to get some surgery. Apparently, he was in a good mood. They played him his favorite film, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, and he discharged himself. Now, he was paid $5 million by Pepsi. Pepsi paid him an additional $1.5 million to settle being burnt. Now, here's where the story goes from funny to kind of strange. Is he's so impressed with his care at this burn center, he donates the $1.5 million to this burn center, where they open a 23-bed unit to treat people with severe burns. This beautiful thing. You're like, wow, look, Michael really helped out. But guess what? This hospital closes in a year and a half. And guess who gets a $10 million Pepsi deal 18 months later? Michael Jackson. So I think his attachment to this place was fickle. I guess once his burns healed, he didn't feel like paying for it anymore. I don't know. But a strange situation all around, huh?
I'm curious how. So was like the payment to the hospital a down payment to keep the work coming from Pepsi? I don't know how that works.
Yeah. I mean, that's where you read this and you're like, well, the only good thing that came out of this was a 23-bed burn unit opening for a year and a half. I just thought that Michael Jackson might have been able to, round up the money and people to keep that place open, the place he cared so much about. But really, and what's Marlon Brando's son doing as the security aide? Do you think he was just LA, I want to party dude, and Jackson just gave him a job, or he's a real security guy? I don't know. There's a lot of extra questions to this story. I feel like we could do a full doc on it.
Imagine if he's like the Chet Hanks of like 80s
Right.
Hollywood. He's just
Yeah.
like saying crazy shit, doing
Yeah.
security.
He's like Charlie Murphy without being funny. Yeah.
It's so funny because Michael has been in the news a lot this week. Eddie Murphy was on
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy Kimmel talking
Saw that.
about the whole zoo that
Yeah.
he had there, and apparently it was like way more chimps than just Bubbles. So kind of
Right.
wonder why Bubbles was the one that got famous.
Yeah. I've heard about the Bubbles story, but Bubbles got a little violent later in life,
Yeah.
apparently. Yeah. I really like that. And every time I hear Eddie Murphy talk, I'm very impressed, and I like that story he told about having the Good Times painting.
Oh, yeah.
And buying it from the Marvin Gaye estate for $50,000, and now it's worth, millions and millions. Smart guy, fun guy. I love Eddie Murphy. I'm pro Eddie Murphy.
Brand new, complete free plug here. Brand new Eddie Murphy movie out today. Him and Jonah Hill.
Is it out today?
On Netflix. So
Jonah Hill fucked me up with that documentary. All I see is me and Ian talked about it yesterday. Me and Ian Perkins, Sir Ian Perkins, how we're having a hard time seeing Jonah Hill as funny anymore. Especially when he showed up with the crazy beard and long hair in that movie. I only see the dude on the couch now.
And that at any time he's going to take off the fake hair like he did in the doc.
Yeah. I just expect him to be really sad holding an iced coffee now.
Aren't we all? Anyway, that's pretty much the name of this podcast. All right.
Really Benny, on this sad holding an iced coffee with Benny Gallagher.
Ding-a-ling-ling. Oh my God. I should never show the coffee water off on the cam. It's disgusting. But all right.
What do you got?
On this day in 1973, Superstition, the lead single on Stevie Wonder's Talking album, became the #1 single in the US. 10 years after his first hit, Jeff Beck, a guy who we talked about last week because he passed, created the original drum beat while in studio with Stevie Wonder. After writing the song, Wonder offered it to Beck for his record, but Berry Gordy got in the way and was like, you cannot take business away from yourself. Kept it with Stevie, and as I say, the rest is history. So this day, 1953.
Very interesting. So Jeff Beck nearly got that song.
Yeah.
And In Those Hands, I'm not sure if that song does the same thing. That's an interesting what if, for sure.
But Jeff Beck, original drum beat. I wonder what he was driving around LA listening to while making that drum beat.
Yeah, I'm interested too, because I know Stevie Wonder played a little drums as well. So I don't know. I'd love to be a fly on the wall of that session.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe one day, same lineage that song has, the tune-up theme song that you did. It'd be like someone put words to it, make $1 billion.
That's it, $1 billion.
Oh,
sell that to the hedge fund, baby. Speaking of which,
Beeb's coming up just a little bit, but first, Ticketmaster. All right, Benny. We talked about the Ticketmaster story when it came to Bruce Springsteen, but man, these Taylor Swifties, they got on the internet and they did some damage all the way up to the highest court in the land. Senators grilled Ticketmaster and Live Nation Tuesday, questioning whether the company's dominance in the ticketing industry led to a spectacular breakdown during last year's sales during a Taylor Swift concert. The president of Live Nation and their chief financial officer got up and talked about how they only own 5% of the venues in the country. And then SeatGeek CEO got back up and was like, well, if you make a deal with one of these other venues, Live Nation does a good job of boxing people out. Turned into all-out warfare when the songwriter of the band Lawrence, they're a famous pop band out of New York. Also, this kid's brown educated, so a pretty good person to have on the side of artists up there on Capitol Hill. He laid out the entirety of what's wrong, including getting into Live Nation and their merchandise deals that they have a lot with a lot of these venues. He wants bands to have the ability to negotiate with the Ticketmasters and SeatGeeks of the world. So a lot of advocacy, but first we'll start off here. Do you think that this was a lot of hot air, or do you think that actual change is going to come from this?
I mean, we discussed this a lot on the show, and if there's anything I believe business to always be, is interested in their own self-interest.
Yeah.
And if there's anything a mob of Taylor Swift fans can do, it's change cultural sway, and it's change the way you think about something. And I think the fact that this is headline news and there's like this team of, I got to imagine, young people, which is always people who are, spearheading stuff like this, are making people aware and finding other avenues, and other artists coming up might find other avenues. So yes, I do think it's useful. I don't know how much this is going to break down like the big time business model of the things we're looking at, because like I've talked about before, Ticketmaster, Live Nation, SeatGeek, they're all monsters. They're all going to get on a golf course together, and they're all going to figure out a way to make as much money as possible off of us. That's what they do, and I trust them to do that. So them yapping at each other on in a court proceeding is just, again, acting in their own self-interest. So I don't really think there's some like beef between these companies and one of them is going to get cooler than the other one. They always work together, and that's how they keep the business bottom line, But do I think it's important? Yeah, I think it's important. And even the last thing you talked about, I mean, if you talk to a touring band and the ways they can make revenue and the ways that they get fucked, the merch rates at venues is one of the most preposterous things that did just start happening. It's one of those deals that like it kind of just got slipped in over the years, and some places would do it and you'd be like, fuck, this place sucks, you got to give them 20% and this and that. But then, as the lawsuit is talking about, is you wind up on these tours and you're paying 25% cold rates at every single place, and people are wondering why shirts are too expensive and why bands can't tour. And it's just these little cuts, and it's these little places where they take as much as they can get. And they're hurting their own industry by, as a result. So at some point, I think it's going to fit their business bottom line to actually treat this situation better. But I do not think it's from any point of doing what's right or altruism. And that's why it's so important for people to raise their voice and for people to stop buying products they don't want. Because the only way to get these motherfuckers to act is to punch them in the wallet,
Have we gotten to the point with Live Nation and Ticketmaster where some of these newer venues that are being built, some really nice venues in very nice locations, are actually being like financed by Live Nation and Ticketmaster, kind of like the studios did with the movie theaters in the 50s and 60s?
Not Ticketmaster, but Live Nation, 1,000%. Live Nation went up and bought the Knitting Factory franchise, the Fillmore franchise. You ever wonder why there's a Fillmore popping up in every city in America right now? It's because of Live Nation. So they are 1,000% doing that, and they have the money to go into these cities. Take like an old theater, this old beautiful theater that no one else had the money for, and they can fix it up, and they can basically put everything they want in there. Put someone in there that's booking their bands and their tours. And yeah, and that part of it is an absolute monopoly. And if you're actually getting hundreds of millions of dollars in funding to like, fix up an old theater, like the things it takes to get that thing to go, and then you open it and you can't book a fucking band in there, yeah, it's a problem, So Ticketmaster is not part of that, but Live Nation 1,000% is. And as usual, if anyone from Live, like, they pay me all the time. And, so if anyone's listening, like, I don't know. Sorry.
That would 100% explain why in this whole thing they didn't even talk about the alcohol sales at the venue,
right?
Which Live Nation and Ticketmaster have stayed away from. They talked about like the band's merch and stuff like that. So.
And I've been bringing that up to people for years. I'm like, all right, if they're cutting our merch, we cut their bar.
Yeah.
And if they don't give us a percentage of the bar, then we don't play there. But you know what the problem is? I don't have someone on the staff of my band to manage what the fuck is happening at bars in some giant venue. And if they're giving you the right amount of money, and like, who knows? It's a whole nother industry that's got nothing to fucking do with us. So it's a problem. Yeah, and I hope we find a more equitable solution soon.
You almost went full James Dolan there. Did you see that this week where he was like, I'm going to cut out the bar at MSG for a random Ranger or like Knicks game?
JD in the smooth shot, baby.
Oh, but that was so crazy. He went on MSG and was like, yeah, like if, cause he feels like he's being targeted by like the New York State, like liquor license and stuff like that. He was like, I'm just going to stop selling alcohol at my game. Doesn't bother me. I've been sober 29 years.
Yeah. Right. Good move.
Crazy. All right, Benny. You know, this is one of our favorite sweet spots on this podcast is when people get the bag for selling their catalog, and the latest to do so is Justin
The
Bieber.
Biebs.
Bibs. All right. Justin Bieber has sold his catalog up until this point to Hypnox. Oh my gosh, here we go again. Hypnosis, song capital for a reported $200 million. This includes songs like Sorry and Baby, two big ones. The firm now owns a big stake in a lot of the pop music that has come out in recent years. But here's what I don't understand about this, Benny. You know, we've seen this with like your Springsteens, your people that are up there in age. Bieber's 28. Don't you think? And you hear all the time about these hedge funds talk about, you know, the only recession-proof commodity is music and people buying all of it. Why, if you're that young, would you want to get rid of it this early?
There's a bunch of things I wonder about here. And even so, to answer your first question, I think there could be the possibility, like, you're not selling everything you're making in perpetuity from now on. So, you know, if like you're Justin Bieber and you started making songs when you were a teenager, I can't imagine he fucking probably just gets slammed on fucking publishing stuff for that old stuff, because there's probably a ton of co-writers and a ton of people who have their hands in the pot. And I'm sure Justin Bieber makes a ton of fucking money. I'm not saying that, but a lot of other people probably do too. And so, you know, the first thing that comes to mind when I hear this is like, sure, Justin Bieber just sold all of his old stuff for $200 million. What's stopping him from this point on at 28 for the rest of his career of self-funding his own music, owning his own publishing? And now you got this bag of cash, and then you have another 20, 30-year career of your own shit that you own. So I think that's like maybe what he's doing, you know? And apparently, according to this story, you know, I'm not too hip on it, but by the end of this year, something is happening with capital gains taxes. It's going to make this much less profitable to do by next year. So I think that's why some people were squeezing it in. So I think that would be the logic of someone like Bieber doing that. The thing I found interesting about this is seeing the names he's, you know, being sold against, people who you would think, whoa, they have a much larger catalog. They're 40 years worth of songs, got to be worth more than like, you know, a dozen Bieber hits or something like that. But I think this is like a futures bet by this hedge fund. You know, like one thing you got to start considering, it's like giving a long-term contract to a young player in a lot of ways, and hoping something plays out, because new music can sell old music. So I think when you are taking it into account, accounting wise, with someone like Justin Bieber, the idea that like Justin Bieber could have another hit that's going to kickstart his old catalog is very in the cards. The idea that Neil Young is going to have another mainstream hit, you know, unless he's in a Kate Bush situation, it's probably not going to happen. So I think that's why you might see some younger artists starting to get these big bags for this stuff.
I love it, because I could see, you know, Bieber looking at this as like, you know, like when companies go public, they're trying to raise a bunch of capital to do some other business stuff to try to move on to the next sector of his life. So
maybe we're getting an amusement park or something after that.
Everyone's
Beavertown.
Beavertown.
Come
right
on.
next to Guy Fieri's Flavortown. Beavertown, Flavortown.
I'll go.
All right, Benny. Oh, let's get out of entertainment. Let's get out of sports. You know, we've
Bring me to science, please.
This is a neglectful area. We used to do a lot more tech and science stuff here. Yeah. We're oldie but a goodie here. Benny, did you know the rotation of the Earth's inner core may have paused, and it could even go in reverse? A new research study suggests. When I say those words to you, what do you think first before I get to this?
I was really eager to hear the explanation of what this meant.
Okay.
Because, you know, one of the first things I thought of was like, how cool, you know, like, because I had no idea, like, the core of the Earth sat in a molasses-like gelatin that allowed it to spin freely inside of the Earth. I had no idea that was going on. And it made me think of the Earth as like a lacrosse ball, or like, you know, one of those balls that you can move and you feel an inside ball moving. And I'm like, wow, that's really interesting about something like that's going on the inside, and we're spinning the outside, and there's all this movement. Like, what a just cool thing to consider in general. I think one of the things I like the most about stories like this, and we talk about this a lot, is that, these stories are a simple reminder to people about the frailty of human life and living with some humility, like sometimes when you read a story real quick and you're like, oh, wait, what? The core is going to reverse? Are we all dead? Because I was enjoying today, and like, I like that. And we don't make the damn choices on this earth, so we got to take it easy on each other and take it easy out there. And a spinning core is something that that makes me feel good about that. But apparently, according to these scientists, they think it happens about every 70 years, and just this is when it starts spinning, going the other way, and it can change a lot about volcanoes and earthquakes and continental drifts, and make us understand a lot about the earth. So I hope we know more, and credit to the science community. Again, this is one of those things that's like broken by reputable scientists in China, picked up by scientists all over the world. And I think, as usual, science can be looked at as a benchmark of global community and how it can be done right.
I can't wait till people start using this kind of like they do astrology. They'll be like, oh, like I'm having a bad day. Like the Earth's core just like shifted.
The core is the core is at its most axis. People are going to be burning sage about this in no time. Yeah.
But no, it's just like because like we learn about it in like middle school science, like the parts of the earth and how we're all just every day just sitting on like a hot core that at any point could do whatever the heck it wants, and we have no control of. So yeah, man, just the infinite universe stuff. Gosh, now I'm back to up there on the hill, Benny again.
And not even the infinite universe. I mean, that's the crazy thing about it is we know a lot more about the universe than we do about the rock we're sitting on. So, it's interesting.
It feels like that's like a James Cameron thing. Like after James Cameron gets done exploring the sea, that he's just gonna start like plowing down there. Like he's gonna remake Journey to the Center of the Earth, but for real this time.
Well, I mean, I think that's what he's hoping for, is that at some point, keeping going down, you're gonna find some more air down there.
Yeah,
that's what I think he's going for, is to get through the water stage. He's gonna have to go 3 miles deep instead of 2. Respect James Cameron.
Every other billionaire wants to go up. James Cameron's like down. Oh man. All right, Benny. Do you want to move on to the hoops here, or do you have anything else about the Earth?
About the Earth? No, I think I'm good. Good on the Earth.
Speaking of out of this world, Giannis and LeBron James, they were named captains of the All-Stars for the Western Conference and Eastern Conference, respectively. LeBron, this marks his 19th All-Star appearance, his 6th time as captain since the NBA moved to that format. Benny, we got to start off here because, we'll get to the snubs and the All-Stars in just a little bit. But is it more impressive that LeBron is this close to history, or that Giannis is popular enough worldwide to be captain again?
No, I mean, the LeBron thing is definitely by far more remarkable. The one thing I'm enjoying about the last couple weeks as LeBron gets nearer and nearer to Kareem is the Kareem stories. And I've heard some people say, and the more and more you hear it, you go, is this the most like underrated athlete of all time? Maybe. Like, you hear about these accomplishments, what he did with his body, how cutting edge he was, the fact that it was like almost in a Babe Ruthian sense, where like the things he was doing were so strange at the time. I don't think people knew how to quantify it in a lot of ways. And now that someone like LeBron is doing it, and we've watched the path and how hard it was, and what phenomenal things that dude had to do to get there. So to me, like, the LeBron thing is by far the most remarkable as far as that goes, going for the point record for sure. Giannis being a wildly popular international player, we all knew about that. He's like the most likable dude ever.
But no, it seems like so. I was eyeing the LeBron point total because we talked about it last week. I don't think it's going to happen at the Garden anymore.
No, not anymore.
He went for 45 one night, and I'm like, can he go for 45 for 5 straight nights and do it at Madison Square Garden? But I think he went for like 20 the other night. But
yeah, not with the addition of Rui Hachimura taking his shot.
Big trade from the week. Rui goes from the Washington Wizards to the Los Angeles Lakers. Lakers add a guy who's getting about 13 points a game. They give up their highly coveted draft picks, or at least the way Rob Pelinka coveted them. But yeah, no, just another addition from the Lakers that you hope it makes it better, but it's like throwing paint against the wall at this point.
I mean, I like this one. It makes it marginally better. It was a player who, was blocked and maybe not getting the necessary minutes where he was. It's low cost. It's second round picks. It's Kendrick Nunn. So I thought it was a great buy low investment on a young player that could pan out in a certain way. Listen, guys look a lot fucking better when you're playing in a starting lineup with Anthony Davis and LeBron James, as opposed to who was he just playing with? Delon Wright, Denny Avdija, Porzingis sometimes, Kyle Kuzma. So yeah, he might look a lot better now.
Okay, all right. Well, we're still going.
Well, I picked him up in all 3 fantasy basketball leagues.
So. I texted you that, and you're like, "Oh, I got to get in the playoffs. I got to pick up Rui."
Dude, it was an impulse thing. Impulse. I was like, "Got to get Rui." I don't know why.
I love it. But let's go down the Eastern and Western Conference All-Stars, shall we? Benny, I have our predictions here because we predicted the 5.
Oh, good.
All right.
Just came with receipts.
Just to refresh it, in the East, Benny had Donovan Mitchell, Jaylen Brown, Kevin Durant, Jason Tatum, and Giannis. I had Mitchell, Halliburton, Giannis, Tatum, and Durant. So we both boxed out Joel Embiid. And as it turns out,
we were right.
Eastern Conference, Kyrie Irving, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, Giannis, and Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm. So we both had Kyrie out.
Yeah.
So I think that's the big. So that's what people are talking about, right? Kyrie over Harden.
Yeah.
See, and I think you had it right the first time. Why can't you make the case for Halliburton over both of them?
Yeah, I would 100% do that.
I mean, it's I guess when you're, a young player like that, all that stuff comes into play with, they deserve it. But who do you think? Who do you think you like more for that spot? Kyrie or Harden? Who got snubbed?
I would probably say Harden, just because, to see, well, the fact that Philly got snubbed in general here across the board, and we'll get to the Embiid stuff in a little bit. But statistically, what Harden has been able to do, I mean, he does it every year like this, but I just think I don't know. They're probably similar in games missed there, but for importance to the team for this year, I definitely have to say that it's Harden over Kyrie as of right now.
Let me ask you this. Is this the downside to just being generally unlikable? Because I'm serious. Like Embiid, great. You know what I mean? The guy does nothing but talk shit. And there's certain players who come off better. And Harden, don't get me fucking started. If you're not in Houston or Philadelphia, you fucking hate this guy more than anything. Like this, 50%'s the fan vote here. Like this stuff matters. People love Kyrie.
Yeah.
They love him. They love watching him play basketball. You know why? Because watching Kyrie Irving play basketball is more fun than Embiid and Harden. I'm not saying he's better, but I wonder how much of this one, since when you're dealing with something that's on a 50-50, and it's give or take, those are the little things that matter. And those people being widely unlikable to most people who watch the game, especially over someone like Giannis, is true. Now, here's the thing about Embiid is I'm hearing story after story about how Embiid got snubbed. I'm not hearing a lot set in stone about who should have been taken out instead of him.
Yeah. Because nobody wants to do that. It's just easier to say, yeah. But
so what are you going to do? If you want to make a complaint about it, I think the major complaint to make is to take away positional restrictions on the All-Star roster.
Yeah.
You want the 5 best players in the league, then, let 5 centers be there if they have to be. Yeah. But this idea that you have to build a legitimate looking roster for an exhibition game, pretty stupid. Maybe now, and maybe we should just be picking the 12 best players now.
100%. And the players that will get the most eyes in there. But I wanted to ask you about the Kyrie thing, because, numbers good. Maybe they're not all time Kyrie numbers, but did keeping his name in the news the way he did, and when people went to go vote for it, granted it's only 50% of the vote, but did that help? They're like, oh, Kyrie, for the casual, I know that guy, solid season, let me put him in.
I gotta be honest, something about what happened to Kyrie made him more likable to most people. I don't know what to tell you. but like he's turning into one of those people because of the way he presents himself, kind of the constant line of bullshit he's always feeding everybody, including himself. It's like when you say something 100 times, enough people start to believe it that they think it's true. And I don't know, he's a magnetic guy. His teammates like him. He's interesting. He says weird things, and people fucking love him for it for whatever reason. And somehow, people on the outside who weren't affected by it thought the punishments he was getting were too severe for what he was doing and stuff like that. And somehow he became a bit of a, like a patsy in all this. And that's it's shocking, but no, it's not that shocking. This is just how society plays out.
I think, when you speak up or speak on enough liberal causes like he does, you're bound to hit a decent, like he takes a lot of swings. So like, I think on like the women's on the WNBA getting charter jets, he had every single WNBA star like supporting, tweeting fists up, which that was a lot more white fist ups than I think he would like to see in his timeline. But I just think the Kyrie enigma, it keeps people going. It's unfortunate, but statistically, if we're talking there, it should have been Mitchell, and he's in there, and it probably should have been Harden or Halliburton. And I think Halliburton is way more important to his team than James Harden.
Yeah, and watch, Kyrie's gonna be one of the first picks too.
Oh, not if Giannis. Listen, Giannis.
Not Giannis.
Oh my gosh,
Oh yeah, LeBron's definitely picking Kyrie early.
Is that how Giannis tanks his like global like love affair that people have with him? Kyrie, number one pick.
It would work. Giannis is going international as fuck if he can.
Yeah.
He's picking every international guy if he can.
Let's get to the Embiid stuff since we're still on the Eastern Conference. We talked about that 3-horse race conversation with Durant, Jason Tatum, and Giannis, and I think it's interesting, and this could be a complete coincidence, that the highest vote getters are the guys that have either won a championship or have been in the finals, where I think a lot of people where there's the most eyeballs on the sports and have performed very well in that stage. So is this just a case of Philly didn't turn out, which could also be the possible? They're focused on the birds right now. Or is it the fact that in order to take that next step and truly be respected in a legendary status, you got to get to the finals and show out?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Listen, Philly's one of the biggest cities in America. This isn't like a tiny market, It's a substantial city with a huge fan base, and and a rabid fan base at that. So I don't think that's it. No, I think you probably hit on something there. I mean, Embiid, in a lot of ways, to your novice fan, is looked at as somebody who's hurt all the time, somebody who chokes in big games, somebody who can't get past that next step. Somebody who bitches about his teammates and bitches about his situation sometimes and comes off a little weird. So I think there's a lot to that. And the idea that I think Tatum, in a normal world would have been left off if his team didn't do what they did last year. And so I think you make a good point, and that's probably got something to do with it.
I don't know why you brought up Embiid choking in big games, and I thought of Ben Simmons. Just a quick aside, I saw this story. Ben Simmons spent $800K on an engagement ring. They called off the engagement. The girl wants to keep it. He wants it back, and it could get in legal trouble.
Oh my!
What's your take on engagement rings?
Well, I never bought one that cost $800,000, so we don't know that situation. Okay, I'm not gonna get involved there because maybe Honey was only in it for the ring, and he knew it, and he's like, "Fuck her." Like, I don't know, man, but that's his personal. But you know what I'm worried about?
What are you worried about?
I'm worried about his goddamn shot. That's what I'm worried about. And let's talk about this game that happened the other day because we're on Philly and Ben Simmons right now. Like, that Philly Brooklyn game was fun.
Yeah.
And one of the funny things about being a Nets fan is you hear a lot from like Sixers fans, Knicks fans, but there's never really been a rivalry. The time the Nets were good, and especially in those late 90s, early 2000s teams, like the Knicks sucked, 6 or so like that. Like the Nets had their number then, and then the Nets sucked when they were good. And there's never actually been like even though like Philly and New York hate each other, there's never really been a palpable rivalry because of the circumstances. Now, holy shit. I mean, Harden fled this team. Simmons fled that team. Embiid, Durant, like now you're going back and forth time and time again. And it's like, it's becoming a thing. And if you actually keep like Embiid and Harden together and Kyrie and KD together, and they keep playing this much and seeing each other in the playoffs, yeah, we might be really looking into like a serious rivalry. Like, this is where Ben Simmons is so polarizing, right? Because he comes out and you're like, this is essentially a point guard or someone who can run the point, who's challenging Joel Embiid in the paint and doing a pretty fucking good job, and the things he can do and he can offer on that end are so dynamic. And you watch him race down with the ball and get the offense started. Like, it's such a frustrating thing to watch, because if you just redevelop some version of an aggressive offensive game, some spot on the floor you can do it. Go be Sean Livingston, right? Remember Sean Livingston?
Of course.
Sean Livingston found one place on the floor that he could score whenever he wanted, right? Mm-hmm. If you gave Sean Livingston the side of the hoop from 6 to 8 feet, little turnaround, automatic. You know what I mean? Like, just find one fucking shot, one place that you're comfortable, your little comfort zone, floater, anything, just to keep people honest. Because it really is. It's such a frustrating player to watch with the amount of talent you see and the things that could be done with a player like that with just a couple little things, yeah, it's huge. And the free throw thing is still a fucking problem. I wish I didn't have to talk about it, but the second he gets in the game in the playoffs, they're going to hack the shit out of him, and it's definitely going to happen. So another thing that needs to be fixed.
It's almost like he didn't play enough basketball coming up, whether it be at LSU or early in his career, to develop this.
Yeah. Listen, we got to take the Brock Purdy approach, You got to start taking people with some minutes under their belt. Look at these James Wisemans, like look at these kids. They just don't play enough.
You got to play to get good, kids. That's what I'll tell you today.
You got to learn the sport.
All right, Benny, let's go to the Western Conference, shall we? LeBron is the captain there. We had, you had Luka, Ja, Jokic, Zion, and Lauren Markkanen. I had Steph, Doncic, LeBron James, Jokic, and Sabonis. And the result is we have LeBron James, Jokic, Zion Williamson, Steph Curry, Luka Doncic. So a nice combination of two things.
I got Zion. You got Steph.
Yeah. I should have taken Zion. I just thought that people would hold it against him how many games he missed.
They should have. Like that's probably the strangest one on here, but I think you ran into a unique thing that Anthony Davis and him both just were the clear favorites for that position, and both missed a ton of games. So it's like a tit for tat situation. Yeah. I think Ja deserved that spot over Steph this year. Myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's a pretty fair thing. So let's talk a little about this new format, shall we?
Okay. Which part?
The street ball draft.
Oh yeah.
Now, like, this worked really well last year, right?
Yeah.
People talking shit, LeBron and his clipboard, like giving the little wink to this guy, the little fuck you to this guy. There was a lot at play there last year with those two talking shit to each other, and no one was in the room. I've been a part of a lot of random basketball drafts before games, and it's a weird thing. Okay, it makes you feel weird. If you're the first pick, you feel some pressure. Yeah. Like, hey, I was the first pick. Like, I got to show up. Or if you're the last pick, it says something, and everybody takes the last pick with kind of a, hey, sorry, I'll take you. You're the last one, and that's gonna happen here, and it's gonna happen live. And the one thing this league needs, I do think, is like some of that real pitting rivalry again, where there is. I do love the fact that players are friends these days. I think it's good. I don't think people need to be dicks to each other. I like it. But this could cause some really interesting, fun things that go into the playoffs, especially the way people draft. So I couldn't be more excited about this new format.
It will be the most controversial thing that's happened in Utah since Michael Jordan had a bad slice of pizza. Like, we're just going to see, because you know what's going to happen. It's either going to, I think the last pick is either going to be James Harden or Trae Young, and it's just going to get salty.
No, someone's going to make a point with Harden.
Oh, and like take him up top because wasn't he the last pick last year?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like this is where, and that's another thing, especially when you're dealing with people like LeBron, is like, you know, there's an intention to a lot of what he does. So you got to watch out for stuff like that. Like, you know, LeBron is trying to get people to come to the Lakers still. He's trying to, you know, like he's wheeling and dealing. Like he could be choosing someone because he wants Bronny to play with him in like 3 years. Like he's always up to something. So you got to pay attention to it.
I'm just curious what the angle is now, because he made no bones about wanting Las Vegas as a franchise. So is it he's going in the 25 to 21 demo to already try to tamper for a future Las Vegas franchise that he wants to own?
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Is like every move he makes is calculated. There's going to be nothing about this. So it's like, it's not like he doesn't think he can win the All-Star game, you know, drafting Luka. But like, does that help him in the future? I don't know. I think Giannis is probably trying to draft to win this game.
Yeah.
And LeBron is drafting first for the future here.
As my buddies Amino Hassan and George Sedano say, LeBron does not leave breadcrumbs. He leaves whole loaves of bread.
That's right. So. That's right. If there's anything we learned about that dude, it's unless he's talking about China, it's very deliberate and he knows exactly what he's doing.
All right. Benny, well, speaking of a whole loaf of bread, do you want to talk about what happened with the Warriors this week?
Mouthpiece gate?
Oh, mouthpiece gate, oh my goodness. We have another Warriors dust up, and once again, it involves Jordan Poole, who may not have done anything wrong. He's just around highly competitive individuals, but we don't know. On Wednesday, with Golden State leading Memphis by just 2 points with 1 minute and 14 seconds to go, Steph Curry clapped at Jordan Poole. He wanted the ball. He had a shot. Instead, Poole, channeling his inner Philip Seymour Hoffman from Along Came Polly, just shot up, took it.
Rain dance.
Rain dance. Did not make it. And this caused, on the way back, Steph Curry looked at him furiously, threw his mouthpiece at Jordan Poole. So, for those who playing along at home, Jordan Poole has gotten sucker punched and a mouthpiece thrown at him. Does he have an HR violation here?
I mean, dude, I mean, it's like, this is where I got to know, like, you know that like dude in the crew who like everybody makes fun of, everybody like kind of gives a hard time. They take it well because maybe they're like either too dumb to notice or just have kind of like a good vibe about him. But if someone else starts fucking with him, you're going to kick their ass. Like he's still one of yours. I'm starting to get the impression Jordan Poole's like that. I think that's the only explanation for this, is like, this is the type of guy in the locker room, like a Grant Williams type, I guess, who either just like annoys people or is so like aloof or something that like, because people aren't treating this guy right. And they obviously like are, you know, they appreciate his game and they know they need his game currently to stay afloat because that lineup looks pretty good with him out there. But there's something between this team and that guy. And I wouldn't be shocked if like we saw some kind of move revolved around that. Like when there's smoke, there's fire, right? Like there's got to be something here. Especially, this is Steph Curry.
Yeah,
it's the most vanilla fucking NBA player there's ever been. He never says anything wrong. Fiery competitor, but like, you know, this is like one of the cleanest dudes in the league, and like, and always so supportive of teammates, always saying the right thing about his teammates. There's got to be something here.
I think it's really clear that the dynasty guys, like the Warriors dynasty guys, don't respect the other guys.
What's that?
And, you know, they just go along on this way each and every time, just trying to make the most of a bad situation. But yeah, no, like the way that he just went out and has talked a little bit too much shit and then came back. And then there's just a whole Steph Curry situation now. It seems like a lot to deal with. And they definitely don't respect the guys that weren't there for the dynasty, like 100%.
Oh, yeah. You think that's what it is?
Yeah.
But your boy Dante's doing, I mean, like, he seems he's like well-liked over there.
I mean, he came from a winning situation. So they're like, hey man, there's a cover charge to get into this club, and that you have to make a deep playoff run. Not ride on our coattails, which is ironic.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a pragmatic person, and the way Jordan Poole's been playing the last month or two, that's not the problem. Yeah. You know, there's something else going on behind the scenes there. I mean, dude, we don't talk like the Warriors are an exceptional team, and the idea that like, you know, we're mid-season, we talk about like, oh, the Hawks. What are we going to do about the Hawks? Or what are we going to do about? How does the Warriors get away with this shit? Their longtime Hall of Fame power forward kicked the shit out of their shooting guard like 2 weeks before the season, and they're not playing that well. Like I don't know why. They're just like that team that gets a pass for some reason.
Like, imagine if this happened to the Sacramento Kings, they'd be like, oh, same old
or
Kings.
The Knicks, or
yeah,
like,
oh my God,
you know, like anybody else. Like the Warriors do, they get like some kind of free pass. And maybe it's because of what we talked about earlier. Like Steph Curry and Clay got a lot of cultural equity, you know. Like,
people always want to be around the winners. They, you know, they want to, hey, can I try on your ring? And so
right.
Happens every time. Anyway, as we wrap up here, we just want to give a melancholy, I guess, happy trails announcer Billy Packer, who was the voice of the NCAA tournament for many years, for decades, died on Thursday. His son announced in a tweet he was 82 years old. He broadcast NCAA games for CBS starting in the early 1980s. Really saw the NCAA tournament become it was decent size, but I think in, you know, those like early 2000s to like 2010s, it really became a TV spectacle not to miss. The cause of death was kidney failure, and after he was hospitalized in Charlotte, North Carolina. So Billy Packer, the voice of March Madness, passed away at the age of 82. So just want to throw that in there at the end.
Yeah, certainly a voice I'll remember. And maybe the most interesting thing about him was hiring a psychic to find the weapon in the O.J. Simpson murder. Yeah, he had an interesting.
I don't know the story.
Packer. Yeah. Go read the Wikipedia.
Okay. All right. Well, anyways, get in contact with the show. You can email us at thetuneuppodcast@gmail.com. 2 P's in there. If you want to follow us on all the social platforms, we have the TuneUp HQ on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. That's right. YouTube has handles now. So TuneUp HQ there. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're watching. Thank you. If you're not, where you been? If you want to follow the big man on Instagram, he is at Benny Horowitz. I'm at Deny Gallagher. Benny, you got anything else?
Yeah, I think it's time we invite Bronny James on the show.
Oh,
I think we got to get him now. You know, like, actually, let's book him now before he's too big. Okay.
I don't have a Bronny connection, but I have a Wembanyama connection. I don't know which.
How's your French?
Oui. All right. The show has ended. Go in peace. Thank you for watching and listening to The Tune Up.